Welcome back, Griffle Ball League. Our first week of playoff action is in the books. The Nighttime Ninjas and Stallionaires had a 9-inning epic that went almost all night. Couldn't play game 2. The Stallionaires ended up winning game 1. So they take a 1-0 lead going into the second week of the semifinals. And then the Taka Drivers and the defending 3-time champion Gashouse Gorillas are tied at 1 game apiece. So it's going to be an interesting series for both games for this week coming up. So this week coming up, we got games 3 and 4 for the Taka Drivers and Gashouse Gorillas. Then we got games 2 and 3 for the Stallionaires and Nighttime Ninjas. It was a fun week. Gashouse Gorillas started the playoffs off strong, winning a big one, 8-0. And then they took a little break in the second game, and they ended up losing off of one swing of the bat from Jackson Buzia, 4-3. So that series is tied at 1. And then the Stallionaires and Nighttime Ninjas had a classic, going 9 innings, and the lights almost cut off at us. We had to stop the game multiple times to stop the camera and keep it going. But some of my thoughts will be concluded after some of the highlights. Let's take you into the Taka Drivers and Gashouse Gorillas game 1 of the first game of the playoffs in the semifinals. This is the highlights brought to you by Tyler
The
Walker.
GBL playoffs started Sunday, and the first game was between the Taka Drivers and Gashouse Gorillas. This highlight warning, all Gashouse. And the top of the second, Jeremy Radishek goes yard for a 3-run blast to give the Gashouse Gorillas a 3-0 lead. Then, in the top of the third inning, Gallagher hits a solo shot to go up 4-0. And the next batter, Jeremy Radishek, hits his second home run of the day over the right field fence to give his team a 5-0 lead, going back to back. Down 5-0, Taka Drivers had a chance with the bases loaded. Mark Mezdakowski popped them up, and that was their best chance of the day. So going into the next inning, it's 5-0. But in the top of the fifth, Radishek looking for home run number 3. He will go yard. Puts his team up 7-0. The commission's got 3 jacks. And the next batter right after that for the Gashouse Gorillas, Jim Tucker. Boom! Back to back again for Gashouse. Gashouse wins 8-0. Going into game number 2.
Alright, so that was game 1. Gashouse came up big, winning 8-0. Radishek hit 3 home runs during the game, and that proved to be the big difference in that entire game for game 1. Tucker and Gallagher also hit home runs in that game as well. So they got 8 runs off of home runs in game number 1. So their power won game number 1. While the pitching for the Taka Drivers, they had the best pitching in the league coming into the playoffs. The starter, Mark Mezdakowski, got roughed up, and then Chris Bartley didn't do so well in the second half, getting in the 4th and 5th innings. So Gashouse stomped him, pretty much a welcome to the playoffs nod to the Taka Drivers. But in game 2, the Taka Drivers struck back, and they struck back early. Here's some of the highlights in case you weren't there for us on Sunday.
Here we are for game 2 versus Taka Drivers and Gashouse Gorillas. The Gorillas are up 1-0 in the series, and Radishek left off right where he started. Another home run to take the lead in the top of the first, 1-0. Gashouse looking good so far, but in the bottom of the first with the bases loaded, Jackson Buzia gives his team what he needs. A grand salami. He made himself a sandwich. Look at that fist pump. Taka up 4-1. Gallagher in the top of the third triples off the fence in center. And right after that, Jeremy Radishek brings him in with another triple, back-to-back triples. The score is now 4-2 in the top of the third inning. In the top of the fourth, Gallagher trying to cut the lead. Here's the pitch from Jackson. He goes yard right center. It's 4-3. They're down by 1. Here in the fifth, top of the fifth, last chance for Gashouse, down 4-3. Out of nowhere, little technical difficulties. Look at that! The pride flag came out of nowhere and tried to attack the Gashouse Gorillas, Nick Bobowski. He eventually grounded out for the first out of the top of the fifth. Definitely a different kind of game, but the last out, here's Ryan Gallagher, pops him up, and when this ball comes down, it's over. Taka ties the series at 1 game apiece, and we're going into next week with a pivotal game 3. Wiffle out.
All right, as you see, Taka Drivers won 4-3. All their runs came off of the first inning with one swing of the bat. Jackson Buzia hit a grand slam to win the game, and their pitching held the Gashouse Gorillas to only 3 runs. Two of them were a home run and then a triple. So they were able to cut the lead and tie the series at one game apiece. So the Taka Drivers are here to play, and this series might go a little bit longer, but you never know in Griffle Ball. Next week is a different story. For the last game of the semifinals, it was the Stallionaires taking on the Nighttime Ninjas. It was a very great 9-inning epic game. So the first game all season where it tied the longest mark in 9 innings of play. So this is the second longest game of the year, or tied for the longest game of the year, all the way back in week 2. The Stallionaires brought their full squad with David Kunapasik, John Reyna, Nate Bryan, and Matt Kuna. And that proved to be the difference, as the Nighttime Ninjas were missing Sammy Kruchek. Here's some of the highlights in case you missed it on Sunday.
Here we are for the semifinal matchup between the Stallionaires and Nighttime Ninjas. The Stallionaires the 4 seed, the Nighttime Ninjas the 1 seed. Kabaki's got himself in a pickle here in the first. Bases loaded, 1 out. Here's Nate Bryan. Grounds out to the pitcher and gets himself out of the jam in the top of the first. Big play, big pitch by Kabaki. In the bottom of the first, Nighttime Ninjas strike first off an Ethan Arve. Bomb into right center. Nate Bryan couldn't get a hold of it, and the Ninjas go up 2-0 in the first inning. In the very next inning, in the top of the second, John Reyna hits one to left center. Arve under it, gets 2 feet in and makes the catch. As you see Kabaki celebrating, that wouldn't be Reyna's first bad luck of the day, as he would have some more later on in the inning. So, big rob there with the bases loaded. And next up for Stallionaires, Kuna singles in the first run of the game for the Stallionaires to make it 2-1. The next batter, David Kunapasik, almost had a grand slam there, just missed it. That would have been big. They would have went up 5-2, but instead, David Kunapasik decides to tie the game with a single here to right field. Boom. 2-2, Stallionaires and Ninjas tied in the top of the second. And then, the next batter right after that, still with 1 out, John Reyna hits one towards the tree. It looks like it could go, but the infamous tree makes it go foul. And you can't see with the cameras, but the tree hit it in foul territory, landed in fair territory. If there wasn't a tree there, it would be a home run. So another bad break for John Reyna, but he'll get his revenge later. But eventually, the next pitch to him walks him, so the Stallionaires take a 3-2 lead going into the second inning. So they got a 3-2 lead here. And then Arbe comes on the mound, and he starts dealing, strikes out Reyna there, but Reyna will get his payback later. And then in the bottom of the third, Kabaki hits one towards Nate. Nate bobbles it, and this starts a really big break because here comes David Kunapasik as Kabaki singles again to load the bases. Bases now loaded. Kuna takes out John Reyna in favor for David Kunapasik, the reliever of the year. Gets Ethan Arve ground out there. Then he gets Kabaki to ground back out to the pitcher, and Kunapasik gets the Stallionaires out of the jam. Score is still 3-2 here in the bottom of the fifth. Ethan Arve goes deep to tie the game off of the infamous Matt Kuna. Big home run to tie the game at 3. We're going to fast forward to the top of the ninth. John Reyna looking to get his revenge off of Ethan Arve. He will! Takes one down the left field line for a solo shot, and the Stallionaires take a 4-3 lead. Then Kuna in the bottom of the ninth deals. Kabaki not happy with the Stallionaires bench at the moment. And then Kuna gets Arve to strike out to win the game for the Stallionaires. The final score, Stallionaires win 4-3 in Game 1. They'll take a 1-0 lead going into next week. Whiffle out.
Alright, as you see, the Stallionaires won 4-3 in 9 innings. Matt Kuna had 9 strikeouts in 5 innings of work coming in the 5th inning. He did give up the tying home run to Ethan Arve as the first batter in the 5th, but after that he was unhittable. Like I said, 9 strikeouts, and then on the other side, Arve came in the 3rd and pitched 7 innings and 8 strikeouts. He only made 1 mistake to John Reyna, and John Reyna finally caught a break, getting a home run off of Arve after a couple of different at-bats and earlier in the game where he had the tree rob him, then Arve robbed him with a great play and left. So Reyna got his revenge against Arve during the game after getting robbed by the tree and himself to give himself the solo shot to be the winning run, and the Stallionaires ended up winning 4-3. So, as like I said earlier in the video, Stallionaires are up 1-0 on the Nighttime Ninjas, and the Taka Drivers and Gashouse Gorillas are tied 1 apiece. And going into next week, our probables for the Nighttime Ninjas and Stallionaires, those 2 games will be at 5 and 6 o'clock, possibly at the Yankee Cage. It looks like it's going to be John Reyna versus Ethan Arve in Game 1, and then possibly Arve versus Kunapasic in Game 2. The starters are subject to change, so we'll see what happens. And then Sammy Kruchek will be back for Games 2 and 3, so that's going to be a welcome addition for the Nighttime Ninjas. If he was there last week, they may have won that game before it even got to 9 innings. Sammy Kruchek's a great hitter. He won the Silver Slugger, so they definitely missed him in Game 1 of the playoffs. And then Kabaki had a little trouble pitching on the mound, so let's see how he handles Kruchek's return. Let's see if he pitches any of the games, or he just throws Arve and Kruchek out there to stifle the Stallionaires pitching staff. Like I said earlier, if Matt Kuna enters the game at any point, that means they're up and they're winning, so he can shut the door. So when he enters the game, most likely they're going to try, the Stallionaires are going to end up winning. But even though you saw it in Game 1, he gave up the home run, but he then settled in and got 5 innings of work where the Nighttime Ninjas had no idea how to hit him. And then there is a stat, if the Nighttime Ninjas go down 2-0, no team in the GBL has ever came back from a 2-0 deficit in the playoffs. So the Nighttime Ninjas really need to come out and take Game 2 to even the series, and then it's up in the air for a pivotal Game 3. So let's see if the Stallionaires can build on their momentum going into next week. I believe these 2 teams are going to split their games. The Stallionaires are going to win Game 3, while the Nighttime Ninjas are going to win Game 2. So Ninjas take Game 2, tie the series at 1, and the Stallionaires take Game 3, and I think they're going to take a 2-1 lead going into the next week of the playoffs. And then at the 7 and 8 o'clock games, we have the Taka Drivers taking on the Gashouse Gorillas. Series tied at 1. So far this season, the Taka Drivers have not been able to hit Jim Tucker. He is 3-0 with a .56 ERA against the Taka Drivers. So the Taka Drivers are going to have to find a way to at least get a win against this guy, because most likely he's going to be pitching Games 3 and 4 while they throw Mesnikowski and Voges in Game 3 and 4. So the Taka Drivers are going to have to figure out Jim Tucker very quickly. He was the Cy Young Award winner. He's only lost to 1 team all season. So if the Taka Drivers can't figure it out, this series may be over before the week ends. And then, speaking on the Taka Drivers pitching staff, Mesnikowski didn't do very well in Game 1, giving up 5 runs in 3 innings of work, or 6 runs. I'm not entirely sure, but he gave up a hefty load of runs. I'm pretty sure it was 5. Let me double check it. Sorry for the break here. But yeah, he didn't do so well. And then Voges came in Game 2 and shut the door, only giving up a few runs. So let's see. He gave up 5 runs in 3 innings of work. So Mesnikowski is going to have to figure it out on the mound, or Jackson Buzier is going to have to find a different starter to go. He might have to start himself. But Ryan Voges has been pitching lights out all season, so he was able to get the win in Game 2, only giving up 2 runs in 3 innings of work. So we'll see how Jackson handles his pitching staff going into the second week of the semifinal round. And then for the Gashouse Gorillas, it looks like Nick Bobowski is doubtful for Game 3 and 4. We'll keep you posted on if he will be there for the second week of the semifinals. And then Radishak, talk about the commissioner putting his stamp on the league. He went 6 for 7 with 4 home runs and 8 RBIs in the first 2 games against the Taka Drivers. So the Taka Drivers can't hit Jim Tucker, and they're going to have to find a way to get Jeremy Radishak out at the plate, because he is absolutely tearing the cover off the ball to start the semifinals. So that's 2 big issues for the Taka Drivers that they need to solve very quickly. And then in the last 2 appearances against the Gashouse Gorillas, Jackson Buzier has recorded a save. So when Jackson gets on the mound in a save opportunity, he is almost automatic against the Gashouse Gorillas to shut them down. So for these games, I predict that they're going to split again, and we're going to see a pivotal Game 5, a deciding Game 5. I think the Gashouse Gorillas, I think Taka Drivers win Game 3, and then the Gashouse Gorillas win Game 4. I feel like the Taka Drivers can find a way to win a game against Jim Tucker. All they got to do is get 1 run or 1 hit, and they'll get him out of the get them out of the game after 3 innings. So if they can do that and win a game 1-0, that's how I predict this happening. So by the end of the week, I feel the Taka Drivers and Gas House Gorillas are going to be going into Game 5 tied at 2. And I believe the Stallionaires and Nighttime Ninjas are going to go into the final week of round 1 for the semifinals. Stallionaires up 2-1. So these are my predictions. These are some of the highlights I gave you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Wiffle out.
Unsuccessful people talk the most shit, that's just what they do. No squares in my circle cause they don't fit, we don't fuck with you.